Hi there, welcome back into my office. I'm Brian, and we're going to now have a look here at a small assortment of recent acquisitions that are striking or interesting to us, and hopefully you on some level. The first item that we'll look at now is this Florida guidebook from the early part of the 20th century. We think it's just about 1921 or so, I do believe. The thing that is so interesting about this is the profusion of advertisements scattered throughout, as well as this really interesting range of black and white photographs around the state to the different locations that were then highly visited or considered desirable. Here's an early aeromarine flying boat image. But anyway, just a fun, interesting early 20th century guidebook to the state of Florida, which we've just cataloged. B3813 is that one. Next is this 19th century souvenir of the city of Amsterdam, B3826. It's tinted lithography on the cover, but what's really great about this is the tie-in to the Tentoonstelling, the international exhibition that was held in this city. And the album, this little tourist souvenir album, has color lithographs, accordion style throughout, like this. There is some splitting along some of the paper fold lines, but nothing terribly offensive and readily remedied if someone so desires with archival tape or something like that. And here is a very interesting, not particularly valuable or expensive, but a lot of times items like this are just so fascinating, and I think they represent a really interesting side area of collecting. That this is a shoe company promotional item. It's a tie-in to the company with views of the city of Boston. But here, this is the Shepherd Brothers Company in Franklin, New Hampshire, back when shoe manufacturers were in all the different states, including New Hampshire. Castle in the Clouds up in near the White Mountains, in fact, is a beautiful home built by a man who owned a shoe company in Boston. This album is interesting. It's a chromolithography album of the late 19th century. It's one I've never had before. I've never seen it. B3825, this nice assortment of beautiful color lithographed images of key individuals of the time, like Charles Dickens, Longfellow, there's Emerson, there's Stanley the Explorer, and so on, Bismarck. There we are. So this is scarce and unusual and very nice, actually. That's how it survives. Next, let's have a brief look through this example of William Nicholson's famous color lithography plate book. It is a almanac here of sports. What is nice about this example is, even though the covers are worn, there is no offsetting to the images. And so the images are all clean and attractive. There is one short tear in the blank margin at the bottom of one of the plates, but that's really minor. And overall, you see that the views, the prints, are all in a nice state of preservation. A beautiful Art Nouveau. This artist really was a master of graphic technique. This lot here is very interesting. They're fascicules. It's a publication. It was issued by subscription, weekly subscription, and these are the parts that are sequential. We have parts here, 1, 2, 3, on up. The description will be visible, and this run ends with part 18. I suspect that it could go on, but this is what's here, and any assortments of these kinds of loose fascicule publications are inherently scarce, in large part, there's several reasons. The first is the fragility of the oblong paper format. This format is highly susceptible to damage from moving and browsing, and so to find these in this kind of condition is nice. These are not common at all, and the whole lot looks like so. Just a profusion of these very interesting photographic views around the World's Fair. So this item has just been cataloged, or will be very soon, 36 if that interests you. Let's move on here to this book, which is not particularly valuable. This is another good example of a 19th century book which has a lot of modern visual appeal. Nice bookplate here by Rodman Wanamaker, engraved armorial bookplate. But this is a relatively inexpensive book that has wonderful chromolithographed views within it. And there are a nice assortment of them. In this volume here, they're all clean, like so. What's interesting about this is the owner evidently had their copy. They took it to a binder to have it custom bound in leather, like so. And at the rear is the original cloth gilt cover that the binder bound in, which you do see in 19th century books. Here's another good example of a book which on the exterior is not anywhere near as interesting or appealing as it is on the interior. It's probably better if I just lay it down on the table like so. And what's nice about this is there are a profusion of these plates all throughout. This one, for instance, is a really nice example of sort of an Art Nouveau style by a very famous person, artist. And here as well are numerous photographs and illustrations of transitory events like the Turin exhibition. Yeah, this is great stuff here. Margaret Mackintosh, the Scottish Art Nouveau group, I do believe. But there are also a range of plates in different styles or methods of reproduction. And this, some of these volumes are quite scarce as they get earlier. This is a nice Cassier color plate. This is volume 17. It's 1902. Profuse list here, a profusion of illustrations, illustrators and illustrations throughout, and the complete contents are found there. Just a very pleasing book overall. It's an important monumental periodical, actually, that goes on for years, and an archive of this would provide someone with potentially months or years of pleasant browsing time. But anyway, that gives you just a very brief overview of how this book survives internally. Oh, I want to point this out too. There's a very nice article here on the female illustrator, Jessie King, who was Scottish, and she was actually a teacher as well. But this plate is really wonderful. This is a her style is just so excellent. This image right here is very desirable in and of itself. That's a great image. So this article on Jessie King is also very nice. Next up, we have this 7-volume set right here of the correspondence of George Sand. Great content, interesting set, and it's scarce. Look at this really attractive custom bookplate at the front here, and top edge gilt, marbled end papers, slightly deckled edges, all in French as issued with the original colored paper wrappers bound in by the binder. The bindings display some surface scuffing, but the leather is supple on the volumes. There's some fading, as often seen on brown and green leathers of this era. It appears that environmental factors, as well as just sunlight, have a tendency to often uniformly tone the colors, but this is how the set survives. There's just a little tiny bit of, just the tiniest little bit of chipping at the head here, which from our perspective, is really minor in the overall context of the scarcity of the set and the content. If you're looking for perfection, this set would not be probably for you, but if you're a reasonable collector who just enjoys antiquarian books with a beautiful shelf appearance, this is a great set. And next, let's have a look at this monumental Women in Sacred History book, which is not only an attractive, heavy leather binding gift style, all edges gilt, the covers embossed in blind. I want to point out there is some splitting along the front lower joint right here, even at the head of the joint as well. The front cover is still firmly attached, but that joint splitting should be mentioned. The publisher obviously was fully aware that the heavy boards here would have a tendency to pull on the binding and eventually come loose if they weren't reinforced. So the binder has reinforced them as issued in the hinges at the front. What's really nice about this work are these beautiful full-page color lithographed illustrations of historical women. The illustration list is at the front here. There are 25 of these full-page plates, all with the tipped-in illustration on mounted as issued. And here we'll show some of them like so. This example does have beautiful registration of the plates, beautiful color, and the plates are clean and free of foxing and offsetting. So the binding is a bit worn, but the internal contents are beautifully preserved. This is a very pleasing plate book of the 19th century, written by a famous female author, of course, and that's how this survives. Yeah, you don't have to be interested in biblical history to appreciate the printing and the overall appearance of the book. And so that is a brief overview of some of our new arrivals. There are many more to show you, and so if you'll come back soon, we will continue on. So thanks for watching, and all of this is currently now available online from me, Brian DiMambro.